This is Kaylee Copeland with Equine Information Source, and today we are here with Willa Gauthier from the Royal Winter Fair. Willa Gauthier has been a board member of the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair since 2017 and has been the chair of the Royal Horse Show since 2018. Along with her work with the Royal, Willa has served as the director of the Ontario Hunter Jumper Association and the lead coordinator for the main volunteer team for the equestrian events at the Pan Am Games in 2015 at Caledon Equestrian Park. She is the owner of Someday Farm, a hunter jumper show barn in Erin, Ontario, where she annually hosts the Rip Gauthier Hunter Derby Classic in support of cancer care at Headwaters Health Center Care in Orangeville, having raised over $300,000 to date. Willa is also a longtime amateur competitor in the hunting ring. Thank you for being here with us today, Willa.
You're so welcome, Kaylee. Thank you for asking for our input.
The cancellation of the Royal was officially announced to the public via social media channels on June 24th of this year. How long did it take to make this decision before you announced it?
Oh, golly, it was several months before we came to that decision, Kaylee. It was, you can imagine it's only the second time in the history of nearly 100 years that it's been canceled. And it was not a decision that we made lightly or easily at all. We, in fact, waited as long as we possibly thought was fair or prudent to do so. Certainly, like everybody, we started looking at the indicators, in February and into March. Then we had several teams in place that were doing all of the due diligence that are required to make such a decision.
This is the second time in history that the Royal has been canceled, the first being during World War II. Did you ever feel pressured to run the event regardless of COVID-19?
I think like everybody, we looked at all of the considerations, and yes, we did feel some pressure initially. The Royal has a history of being an industry leader, and certainly we're the culmination of the competitive year certainly in the horse industry in Canada, and in the agricultural domain as well. So we were very conscious of the economic, implications for all of our shareholders and constituents. But really the most important and the only driving factor when we did make the decision was that we needed to be responsible to all of our stakeholders and constituents in terms of, their safety. And the ramifications of this extraordinary time that we're all going through right now are still unpredictable. And, we didn't feel that we obviously have no control on whether there's a second wave that comes through. So we looked at, if we were to go ahead, and then what happens if we make that decision, pull the plug on operations, and then a second wave does come in. We would have to have canceled anyway. So, we really looked at all of the factors.
Who was involved with the decision to cancel the fair? What roles did these people play, and what insight did they give?
The decision was made ultimately by the Board of Governors of the Royal Winter Fair. There are 12 of us on the Board of Governors. We represent a pretty widespread, I would say, cross-section of the industries. I mean, we have, as our outgoing chair has just been Rob Flack, who's the chairman and CEO of Master Feeds. We have Ari Eckstein, who's with Quality Seeds. We have somebody who's in the marketing field. We have Beth Underhill, who is, a Canadian equestrian at the top of the game internationally. Michael Bonaccini, who really is looking at all of the, food implications. So we were well plugged in that regard. And we also have one of our directors is very involved with South Lake Hospital. And so we were getting, the health directives. We have a terrific Board of Governors. We hashed it back and forth. And as I say, it was not a decision that we made lightly or easily. We all wanted to see this go ahead.
What factors were considered when making the choice to cancel the fair?
Our staff had an extensive examination of all of the possibilities and the possible scenarios. We did look at 3 different scenarios. We looked at 25% less revenue, 50% less revenue. We looked at could we have a 5-day fair as opposed to a 10-day fair? If we did that, what were the implications? How could we socially distance? How could we have, the sanitation protocols? We looked at, could we go forward with no spectators? We really, economically, in terms of the viability, we need to have our spectators, our 300,000 spectators bring in revenue. But in terms of being able to socially distance realistically on that commercial space of a floor, we didn't feel that it was a possibility. We monitored the other events that are going on both nationally and internationally. Within Canada, the Agriculture in Motion, the Canadian Beef Conference, the Outdoor Farm Show, all of those things were canceled. For the first time in its history, the quote preview to the Royal, the Erin Fall Fair, was canceled. In the horse, side of things, Spruce Meadows canceled. Of course, we were looking at the CNE, we were looking at TIFF, we were looking at all of the other large events. But bearing in mind that certainly the CNE, while we share some space, the CNE is predominantly outdoors. And so for us, being indoors was a completely different scenario.
How has the public response been since the announcement of the cancellation?
The response has been exceptionally positive, no question about it. Sad for everybody, and people have said, that they were sad that it's been canceled, but absolutely to a fault, saying congratulations, you made the right decision, the only decision. I think people recognize that it really was the only decision. I have to say everybody has been 100% supportive.
Are any alternate plans being considered to keep the Royal in people's minds?
There are some things that we are looking to. We're working on developing a bit of a virtual presence. Obviously, we need to, continue to have our brand and our logo in front of people. We will be building our website out even more than we have in the last year. We are looking at virtual opportunities. We know, for example, that the food competitions will go forward, and that's something that's much easier to control, and you can do that in a very safe and socially distanced way. For the horse show, I think we're investigating that we might do some fireside chats with some international legends. Stay tuned. There will be some fun stuff that we do virtually. And I think there are some things that we can manage to do possibly in the agricultural domain as well. But those are currently being fleshed out.
Is there anything else you would like the viewers to know?
The Royal is not going anywhere. We'll be back. We will be back stronger and better, and we're heading to our 100th in 2022. So, we are absolutely working full steam ahead towards the 21 fair, which is November the 5th to the 14th, and beyond that to the 100th in 22.
Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Willa. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.